and welcome to today's Pilates session. So I hope everything is all well, all fit and nice and nice and healthy. So remember, just work through a pain-free range of motion. So let's have those feet nice and parallel. We're going to start in the standing position today. So we're going to breathe out, we're going to float those shoulders up towards those ears, and then we're going to draw it down. So we're going to keep that length through that body. We're going to keep that gap between the chin and the chest, keeping that body nice and connected. So let's make sure those toes are facing the front, our ribs and our hips are nice and connected, keeping that length through that body. So we're just going to glide the shoulders up and down, going across the back of the ribs. Beautiful. And we're going to do that just 4 more times. And 3. And 2. And 1. Beautiful. So keeping those arms down by the side, we're going to take a nice deep breath in. As we breathe out, we're going to reach the arms all the way up to our ears and take a big deep breath out. And then we're going to reach it all the way up, keeping that body nice and long and lengthened. Let's keep that gap between the chin and the chest. That's it, lovely. So lengthening out through that body, keeping the ribs over the pelvis. So we don't want to compromise the stability of our core to increase that range of motion at the shoulders. That's it, lovely. And we're going to do that just 4 more times. And 3. 2. And 1. So we're just going to add on to this action. So we're going to keep the arms going. I'm just going to turn to the side. So we're going to breathe out. We're going to reach it down. Breathe out and draw it up. So breathe out, reach and lengthen. And we're going to focus on keeping those feet nice and parallel. Now we can only go down as far as we can manage due to the flexibility through our calf muscles. So if we're tight in our calves at the moment, then don't worry about the range of motion. Just work through the range of motion that is comfortable for yourselves for today. So keeping that width across that body, keep that gap between the chin and the chest, and keeping that body as long as we can. And 1 more. Lovely. So I'm just going to turn back to yourselves, keeping those feet nice and parallel. We're going to have those arms down to the side, lengthen through those fingertips. As we breathe out, we're going to open up those palms to the front, breathe out and take it back. So keep that width across that body, keeping those abdominals nice and connected, keeping that length through that spine. Keeping that head up nice and tall. And keeping that space between the chin and the chest. That gap between the ears and the shoulders. And keeping that head and that neck as long as we possibly can. Brilliant. That's it, fabulous. And we have another 4 and 3. 2 and 1. Brilliant. So let's bring those arms down to the side. Just reset that posture if you've got your feet are wandering. And we're going to breathe out. We're going to reach it down to the side. Breathe out, come back to centre. Breathe out, reach it down to the side, back to centre. Keeping those abdominals nice and connected. And keeping that gap between the ears and the shoulder. So again, we're going to start with this smaller range of motion. If this is comfortable, obviously stick with it. If your backs are stiff today, stick with this range. If they're not, we're going to reach the arm up towards the ceiling. We're going to lift out of the hips and reach it up and over. Bring that arm down. We're going to reach it up. We're going to reach it over and back and down. So we're going to lift up. Keep your toes nice and relaxed. Trying not to scrunch up through those toes. Keep that length through that body. And keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. That's nice and long. We'll reach it over and draw it up and down. So we're going to reach it up to the ceiling. We'll reach it over, all the way back up and down. So we're going to reach it up, reach it over, back to the centre and down. So we're going to lift. Let's get that lateral flexion and back. Arm comes down, reach it up and over, through and down. Let's do 3 more on each side. And 2. Lovely. Keeping that neck nice and long. And we have 1 more on each side. So reach it up, reach it over, back to the centre and down. So we're going to reach it up, over, centre and down. Right, let's have those feet so they're nice and parallel. And we're going to start by loosening up across those shoulders, okay? Opening up across that chest. So I'm going to do this on a diagonal position. So feet are nice and parallel. We want the rib cage over the top of the pelvis. We're going to lift that arm up towards the ceiling. So we want to make sure we're not going to bash anything. We're going to rotate round and bring it back to the centre. So we're going to lift. We're going to rotate round and through and back. So we're going to lift up. We're going to rotate round, open up through the shoulders and through the chest. Reach it up, rotate it round and back through. So we're going to reach it up. We're going to rotate round and back, lift it up. We're going to rotate round and back through. So keeping those tummy muscles nice and connected, keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. That's it, lovely. Keeping that head up nice and tall. Brilliant. So we've got 4 more to go. That's 4 on each side. Keeping that length through that body. 3. 2. And 1. Right, I'm going to come back to the centre. I'm just going to make sure that that is on silent. Yes. Right, don't want that going off halfway through. So feet nice and parallel. Reach the arms up for me. Now we're going to circle the arms around in a nice big circle. Let's keep those shoulders drawing down, keeping that length through that body. So we want to have the circle, probably better to see this way for the moment, about the size of a large platter. So we want to keep that weight so that you're in a nice neutral position. We're not sticking our bottoms out and we're not tucking the pelvis under. So we want to remain nice and light in those feet. Keep that width across that body, keep those shoulders drawing down and keep that length through the fingers. That's it, fantastic. So we want to keep that body as long as we can, keeping that gap between the ears and the shoulder, keeping that body as long and connected from your feet all the the way to your fingertips. So your arms should start to feel a little bit heavy now. And we have another 4 repetitions. And 3. 2. And 1 more. Fantastic. Okay, give those arms a good shake for me. Right, so we're still going to remain standing. We're going to come into our standing leg circles. So if you're doing it on your mat, okay, your mat's going to make you more unstable if you're on carpet, okay, so then you've got double levels of instability. So if you're finding that you're starting to wobble a bit and you're finding really, really wobbly and just sort of putting more focus on what's going on with your ankles rather than movement at the hip joint, okay, just hold on to something, okay? Or alternatively, just stand on the floor, okay? So we're going to have those hands on the hips, we're going to open up through that leg circle. So we're going to go clockwise and then we're going to go anti-clockwise. So we're going to keep that length through that body. We want to focus on keeping your shoulders nice and open, keeping that weight into your big toe to help for our balance. And while your hands are on your hips, you can then just have a little check to make sure those abdominals are firing up. So we want to make sure that they're firm to the touch. That's it, lovely. Keeping that length through that body and keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. That's it, lovely. Keeping those abdominals, again, nice and connected. Keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. So you may find your circles become ovals, that's okay. Brilliant. And we have 2 more each direction. Remember to breathe. Lovely. Right, we're going to swap the foot over. We're going to circle it around. Again, keeping that rib cage over the pelvis and keeping that length through that body. So we want to keep that head nice and tall. Keep that length all the way through. Find somewhere to focus on. That's it, lovely. Again, remember to do that quick tummy check on those tummy muscles. And we've got 1 more each direction. Lovely, right, let's give those legs a good old shake for me. Right, so we're going to focus on our squats now. So we're going to have the heels slightly lifted. So again, I'm just going to do it on the diagonal so you can see. So we want to have those feet now directly underneath your hips. I want you to lift that heel, okay? So as we breathe out, we're going to squat down. Keep that length through that body. Breathe out, come all the way back up. Breathe out, lengthen through. Breathe out, come all the way back up. Breathe out, lengthen it through. Breathe out, come all the way back up. And we've got just 2 more repetitions. Lovely. So I'm going to face the front for this one. So feet are nice and parallel. I'm just going to lift that heel up. I'm going to squat down, keeping that body nice and long and lengthened. So we're going to breathe out to lower. Breathe in to come back up. Breathe out to lower. Breathe out to come back up. So you want to keep that length through that body, keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. Lovely. And we have 2 more. Brilliant. So give those legs a good old shake. Right, so we're going to have those feet now nice and parallel. Pop those legs so they're directly underneath your hips, wearing your palms to face you. You want the shoulders drawing down. We're going to get that nice big rotation to the right and then to the left. So we want to keep those shoulders drawing down, keeping that head up nice and tall. So we want to maintain that nice connection through the ribs and the hip. So we want those abdominals to stay as connected as we can, but not changing the angles of the spine. So we want the ribs to stay over the top of the pelvis. Lovely. And we're going to do 3 more like this on each side. So we've got 2 more on each side. And 1 more on each side. Brilliant. Right, give those arms a shake and then we're going to add on. So I'm just going to change the position just so you can see where I've done the add-on section. So fingertips are facing the body. We're going to rotate. I'm now going to reach my arm long. I'm going to bring the arm back in. I'm going to come back to centre. So I'm going to rotate. I'm going to reach my arm away, back to centre, and then I'm going to rotate back to the front. So I'm going to rotate. I'm going to lengthen my arm out, draw it back in, and rotate back round. So we're going to rotate. We're going to lengthen away. We're going to draw it back in. I'm going to rotate back to centre. So I'm going to rotate, I'm going to lengthen my arm away, I'm going to bring it back round and back to centre. So I'm going to rotate, I'm going to reach, through and round. So I'm going to rotate round, lengthen through, draw it in and back round. Brilliant. So we want to keep those shoulders drawing down. Back through. Keeping that chest nice and lifted. And this is going to be your last one. give those arms a good old shake. Right, so if you've got a band, okay, we're going to do this exercise with the band. Okay, if you don't have a band, then just, if you've got a bottle of water will do. Obviously make sure the lid is nice and secure, just so you don't get wet, of course. So, if you're doing it with a band, you're going to have 2 feet on the band. So the band's going to be nice and flat in front of you, and we're going to work the backs of those arms. Obviously, if you don't have a band, then just have the bottle of water, okay, behind your head. Okay, so it's exactly the same action, you're just not standing on anything. So we take the band up behind the back of the head. We want to make sure that the bottom of the ribs are sat over the top of the pelvis, that we're not tucking our pelvis under or sticking our bottoms out. We're going to reach the arm up to the ceiling, and then we're going to lower it down. So we're going to reach it all the way up and down. Last one. Lovely. So we're going to switch the arms over, make sure you don't get your hair tangled up, and then we're going to reach it all the way up to the ceiling and lower it down. And 2 more repetitions. And then we're going to go back to that first side. Okay, so let's swap it over nice and carefully. We're going to reach the arm up and then lower it down. That's it, keeping that head and that neck nice and long, keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. And last one. I'm going to swap it over. And make sure you've got hold of the band really well. Obviously, if you're using a water bottle, then make sure again you've got a good grip of that water bottle. Keeping that length through that body. Remember to keep these abdominals nice and connected. And last one. Brilliant. Right, so we're going to have that band going horizontally across your mat or on the floor. Choice is yours. So again, if we're using a water bottle, we're just going to hold the water bottle. So you want to make sure that you're not flopping on the wrist. You want to keep the wrist nice and neutral. So 2 feet on the band. We're going to do that internal, external rotation. So we want to keep that elbow in line with the shoulder. If you're tight across the chest, that will restrict your movement. We want to keep the wrist and the elbow in line. So keeping that head and that neck as long as we can, we're going to open up. So we're going to keep that elbow so it stays in line with the shoulder. We don't want to try and really draw it into the side of the body. keeping that head and that neck as long as we can. So you want to breathe out and then breathe out to return. So we're going to keep that length through that body, keeping that weight nice and equal on the right and the left side of the body, and keeping that head and that neck as long as we can. Lovely. And we've got another 4 repetitions. 3, 2, and 1. Brilliant. So what we're going to do, we're going to swap over, try and keep that same level of resistance on each side where you possibly can. We want to try and keep it as even as we can. I want to keep that length through that body. So we want to keep those shoulders drawing down, keeping that rib cage over the top of the pelvis. And again, remembering we're working through that range of motion through the chest and the front of the shoulder. And we have another 4 repetitions. So we've got 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lovely. So we're still going to stay with the band. So what I would like you to do, okay, so if you've got water bottles, you'll need 2 for this one. If you've got just working with the band, you're going to place 1 foot on the band, okay? So you want to make sure that band is nice and secure, and you want to make sure that you're not going to pull on that baby toe. So you want to have your toes either tucked in it or firmly tucked out. So we want to open up through those shoulders, make sure that band's not going to annoy you, and we want to keep that chest nice and lifted. So we're going to draw up through the biceps. You want to have that thumb drawing towards your shoulder and drawing down. So we're going to draw it up towards the shoulder and draw it down. So we want to keep that rib cage sat over the top of the pelvis. Again, we're working on that 2-breath breathing pattern. So we're going to breathe out to rise, breathe out to lower. So we want to really keep that control through those tummy muscles and keeping that posture as tall as we can. So we want to have our knees very gently softened. That's it, lovely. Keeping that length through that body. So you want to keep that space between the chin and the chest, keeping that rib cage nice and connected. Lovely. And we're going to do 3 more on this side, and the other side of course. And 2. And 1. Brilliant. So we're just going to lose that band, so just carefully step off, and then we're going to remain with the band. If you don't have a band, then obviously just put the water bottle down to the side, because it's going to be a little bit more challenging to do it without a band. You may want to just do it with a folded up towel lengthways, so you've got a little bit of tug on it to the right and to the left. So keeping those feet nice and parallel, we're going to reach the arms up to the ceiling. Then we're going to pull the band to the right and to the left just very gently and return the arms all the way back down to the thighs. So we're going to breathe out, reach it up, pull the band to the right and to the left, and then draw it down. So we're going to reach it up, little squeeze to the right and to the left, and then back down. That's it, lovely. So we're going to keep that gap between the chin and the chest, keeping that head and that neck as long as we can. Keeping that space between the ears and the shoulder. And we have another 4 repetitions. 3, 2, and 1. Lovely. So we're going to still hold on to the band. So I'm just going to turn to the side so you can see, and we're going to do what we call our hip hinge. So you're going to keep those feet nice and parallel. We want to draw the shoulders back, knees are soft. So we're going to slide your band down towards your knees, keeping that back as straight as you can. So we keep that length through that body. Then we're going to draw it all the way up, lift up nice and tall. So we go back to that nice neutral position. So feet are nice and parallel. We're going to have those knees soft. We're going to slide the band down past our knees. We want to go no lower than shoulders in line with your hips. And then we're going to draw all the way back up. So we want to keep that space between the rib and the hip constant on the way down and on the way up. So it's really important here to get that length into that spine, getting that space between the rib and the hip so it stays nice and equal. Lifting out of those hip joints, you will feel a little stretch on your hamstrings. If your lower backs are tight at the moment, then obviously just make sure those knees are bent much deeper. Okay, so you've got a bigger bend at the knee, reduces the pressure off the hamstrings, which reduces that pressure off that lower back. So each time we come back to that nice neutral position, keeping those knees nice and soft, keeping the shoulders nice and open, keeping that width across that body. And we're going to do that 4 more times, please. Last one. Lovely. Right, let's pop that band down. Right, we're going to do some ankle circles. So you may want to hold on for this, you may not. So we're going to keep that rib cage over the pelvis. So we want to have that knee just very gently lifted. And we're going to circle the ankle clockwise and then anti-clockwise. So by doing this in a standing position, it challenges our balance and it challenges that core activation. So we're going to go clockwise and anti-clockwise. So keeping that body nice and tall, nice and long, and nice and lengthened. Now remember, one side will be so much easier than the other. And we've got one more each direction. Lovely, right, bring those legs down. Give those legs a good old shake before we do the next side. Right, let's get our balance. So remember, one side is easier than the other. So we're going to lift that leg up, doesn't need to be very high. And we're going to circle that ankle around and then back around the other way. So you may find that you get some pop-in and crunching. Okay, as long as it's not painful, it's okay, just little air pops. And also it would be dependent on how many times you may have sprained your ankles. So again, one range of motion may be a lot easier than the other. You need to put that foot down, do so, reset. So again, if you're doing it on your mat, again that will throw you off balance. So you're going to have to work that little bit harder on the core and the supporting leg. And we'll do it one more time. Brilliant. Right, give those legs a good old shake. Right, what I want you to do with your mat, okay, is make sure, or the floor space, that you can do a nice step to the side and then you can drop the weight the other side. So you may find you need to have your feet a little bit wider apart. You place your hands onto your thigh and then we're going to switch to the other side. And then we're going to switch. Now I've got my toes slightly turned out, so they're sort of at like 11 and 1 o'clock position. If that's comfortable for your knees, have it in that position. You may find you need them slightly more turned out or slightly less turned out. So we want to keep these abdominals nice and connected. We're going to get a bit more stretch on those inside thighs. It's good for mobilisation through the hips and getting those hips nice and active and nice and moving. That's it, lovely. So again, nice activation through the inside thigh. Again, you work with a range of motion that is comfortable for your knees and your hips, okay? So really important, hips, knees and ankles has to be comfortable. So you may find that you don't go as deep and it may be a bit more of a more uplifted position like that. That is fine, okay? Go to where is comfortable for those joints. Lovely, and we've got for 4, 3. Remember to breathe. 2 and 1. Lovely. Right, come to a standing position. Bring your feet in, so just adjust those feet in as comfortably as you can. Right team, we are going to stretch out today. So we're going to start with our chest. So we want to bring those hands behind. We're going to place your hands on your bottom. I want you to draw your shoulders back. I want you then to reach the arms up. So keeping that chest nice and open and the front of the shoulder. I want you just to raise your eyes up towards the ceiling, just tilt the head up as far as comfortable, and just do a few big deep breaths in and big deep breaths out. And then we're going to bring those hands in front, so we want to interlock those hands for me. Feet are parallel. We're going to round through the upper back, get that nice big stretch. Imagine I'm trying to separate those shoulder blades. And just keep those eyes looking down at the floor. Brilliant. Right, we're going to take that arm across the body. So we want the shoulders drawing down, pull very gently on the forearm, not the elbow. Keeping that head and that neck as long as you can. And then we're going to take the arm across the body, draw the shoulder down, keep that head nice and lifted. Brilliant. Now we're going to take that arm up towards the ceiling, hand comes down towards the back of the collar, and then we just pull very gently underneath your elbow. And then we'll take the arm across and we'll do exactly the same on the other side. Lovely. Now we're going to stretch out those forearms and the biceps. So have your arm nice and long. You want your fingers going down towards the floor. Very gently draw your fingers back towards you. Keep the elbow very gently softened. And feel that little pull coming down from the front of the arm all the way down through your forearms. And then we'll do exactly the same on the other side. So fingertips down, pull very gently through. Lovely. Right, we're going to stretch out through those quads and those hip flexors. So you might want to hold onto a wall or a chair. Obviously, if you're holding onto a chair, then just make sure it's not going to tip back onto you. So put those knees together. And very gently, just send those hips forward. Lovely. And we're going to place that foot down and we'll do exactly the same on the other side. So we're going to tuck those hips forward very gently. Feel that stretch increase just coming down through the front of that hip. Brilliant. So we're going to stretch out those calves now. So we're going to have one foot in front, one foot behind. Now we're going to drop that weight forwards and we're going to hinge forward. So we're going to keep that weight going through that back calf. Remember to breathe. And then we're going to step in. We're going to switch that leg over. We're going to drop that weight forwards. Hinge it forwards for me. Again, contract those abdominals, keep that width across the shoulders. Brilliant. Step in. So we're going to have those feet nice and parallel. We're going to take it all the way down. We're going to reach it all the way up, lift up nice and tall for me, take it all the way down, reach it up, grow as tall as you can, and one more time, reach it down, lift it up, and give yourselves a well-deserved clap. I hope you've enjoyed today's session, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. Take care, bye.